Hear my voice from the realm of the lost, a place where memories are buried in the flow of time, a place where there is no forgetting. Now hear a story of friendship, betrayal, cowardice, and broken dreams. From the dust of the Sierras, where the spirits of those who came before us dwell, the cry for freedom, Tierra y Libertad, rose up. 3 friends rose up, bound by the fire of time, carried away by the stormy dream of revolution.
In the eyes of Jalisco, under the eternal light of the stars,
3 hearts united in friendship since childhood,
sworn oath to take up arms against the oppressors of the people,
to fight for those deprived of their rights by the powerful.
Tierra y Libertad, our cry of hope, the light in the darkness.
It was Manuel, the dreamer from a bourgeois family with a fiery gaze. Pedro, the realist, a disenfranchised descendant of those who came before the conquistadors. Ignacio, the true priest, with a pure faith, yet a friend to all people. 3 united in the fight for justice, but following different dreams.
Manuel, the citizen, with books on his mind, was filled with the idealist dream of freedom.
Ignacio, the priest, cursed the corruption of the clergy. God serves the poor, not the power of the Lord.
Pedro, the campesino, wanted to break the chains that greedy white men had once imposed on his ancestors. Tierra y Libertad, our shared vision.
The Porphyria crumbled. The chains were broken. The oppressed could not go on living like this, seeing only freedom or death. The masses heard Crristero's revolutionary call, and the earth shook, and 3 friends took up arms against tyranny. The old dictator trembled, and the revolution triumphed. Diaz was driven out, and Madero, the son of a large landowner, became president. Time passed, but no reforms came. The power of the ruling class was too great. Madero fell at the hands of General Huertas, a loyal supporter of the former tyrant.
The nation rose up, Carranza led the masses against the new tyrant. 3 friends fought in his ranks to preserve freedom.
Huerta was defeated, but even the victor saw only the glory of power, and the country sank into blood and tears.
Tierra y Libertad, nothing more than empty words.
Full of disgust, Ignacio turned away and became a village priest to serve the poor. Manuel, now captain of the army, caught up in an empty dream, believed unshakably in the good cause. Pedro, freed from his illusions, served as a sergeant under his friend's command, fighting for pay, not for meaningless ideals. Thus the bond between friends was broken. Thus the bond between friends was broken. The years flowed by, dreams faded away. The flames of freedom, once so pure, burned the weak in the purgatory of greed. The hope of the landless, the upright man, cowardly killed in an ambush. The tribune of the people, the fighter, murdered by conspiratorial hands. Manuel, addicted to the sweet poison of idealistic illusion, remained forever trapped in his rank. He was too honest with those above him, who laughed behind his back at his naivety. Ignacio, the priest, remained a selfless advocate for the poor against those in power, respected and loved by his community, feared and hated by his superiors. Pedro, the campesino, still wore his uniform without pride, not wanting to be an exploited field slave or follow the path of bandits. The revolution was a shadow that burned out in the night. Nemesis sang her bitter song. A new storm was brewing. President Calles longed to break the power of the church and the other lords, to become the autocrat of the national revolution. A new Robespierre, so the demagogue enacted the late Calles as a bloody sharp sword of power. Priests, enemies of the revolution, agents of the Yankees, barked the vicious mongrel of the press loudly. Manuel, forgetting his friend, cheered loudly. The flames of revolution still burned bright. Pedro remained silent, anticipating the bloody outcome. Ignacio, the fool full of courage, did not hide, believing in his merciful Lord. Everything is in God's gracious hands. He preached to the fearful and wanted congregation. In the Sierras, the sky darkened, where the crosses were ablaze and the faithful cried. The priests were persecuted by the iron-fisted government, the churches set on fire. So it was that Ignacio, the fearless rebel who dared to defy the powers that be, was seen. The execution was ordered, the death squad sent in the officers' mess. Manuel heard boastful words about the cruel command. He hesitated, wavering in his loyalty, and only after hours did he order Pedro to warn his friend. Pedro arrived too late and found Ignacio dead, nailed to the cross. The village had been plundered, the inhabitants murdered, an apocalyptic scene in the evening light. Cursing the uniform, he shouted his anger. The powerful lie and murder, as always, as ever. The clothes are new, but the core remains rotten. Manuel remained trapped in his revolutionary dream, a necessary sacrifice for freedom, for the revolution. He lied to himself, but his soul cried out. Pedro, however, full of contempt, deserted, took the path of the outlaw, robbed the rich and spared the poor. In the heart of a perverted revolution, where oceans of blood were shed, one heard the cry of the lost, the arrogant laughter of the powerful, heard the wind of the Sierras that never forgot, a whisper of ancient spirits, heard the nameless cry, but the world turned a deaf ear, so the desperate rose up, the Cristeros with cross and rifle. Manuel didn't understand, full of hatred and blindness. The stupid are rising up against the revolution. How dare they? They must have been stirred up by provocateurs, paid with gold from the Yankees and the Vatican. Pedro the bandit joined in the song of war, led guerrillas against government troops in the bloody battle, just as his ancestors had once fought against those foreigners who came across the sea. Viva Cristo Rey! The defiant cry of the persecuted. Government struck back mercilessly with bloody hands. The battle raged cruelly, without pity, without mercy. A nightmare, a mad painting in the red of blood. In the midst of it all was Manuel, slave to the ideologue, his hatred a never-ending dance of death. So after an attack full of rage and without reason, he fell into the hands of the Cristeros. Awaiting certain death, Manuel was brought before the rebel commander. Full of fanaticism and disappointment, he spoke to Pedro. You are a dishonorable bandit, a traitor to the revolution, a paid lackey of the counter-revolution. The guerrilla leader replied calmly, you call me without honor when you are nothing but a bloody tool of your masters. I did not take up arms against the revolution, but against oppression and tyranny. The revolution is dead, Manuel, and we are just small dealers of death, dogs of war in a merciless world full of lies. Pedro spared his friend and let him go, despite the Cristeros' anger. How can you let that murderous fiend go? They shouted, one day you'll regret it bitterly, but their respect for their leader prevented them from acting. Manuel, however, returned to the troops and to his bloody trade. He continued to fight without scruples, without a trace of doubt. The government was unable to defeat the rebels, the inconvenient, the troublesome. So Caius made a dirty deal. Airplanes and weapons from the arch-enemy north of the border in exchange for his country's wealth. Oil for the United States to crush the Cristeros. The nameless fell in what was now a senseless battle, betrayed by all. And Manuel's inner voice said, the noble cause justifies the dirty means. Doubts dispelled by self-deception. The world kept turning, but hope crumbled. The rebellion was futile, Pedro tired of killing. He laid down his weapons when the government granted amnesty. But forgiveness was just a lie, and the Cristeros were mercilessly executed. Manuel, now highly decorated, volunteered to lead a firing squad to punish those who rose up against the revolution, who wanted to destroy his great dream. But one day he saw Pedro in front of the muzzle of a rifle, captured by the government's manhunters. Manuel could have saved his friend, as his superiors were happy to do anything for the war hero who had been personally decorated by the president. But he was too cowardly. Not cowardly in the usual sense, because he was fearless in battle and self-confident. It was an unconscious fear of what lurked behind the ideological facade. the fear of recognizing things, of recognizing himself. So Manuel gave the order to shoot in a toneless voice. In the seconds before the fatal shot rang out, Manuel looked guiltily into the eyes of his doomed friend. He saw neither hatred nor contempt there, but only great sadness. He saw the suffering of generations of the damned of this earth. And then I understood, Manuel, the metamoros, the hardcore of the truth. I understood that I had become what I once hated most. I understood that my ideals had finally died with the best of us, with Ignacio, the true revolutionary. So I took my revolver and followed my friends into that realm from which there is no return.